As a preservationist and somebody who's interested in how things are built and why and how they age, this house is a really great chance to study something that was well built enough to have been sitting in a fairly at-risk area for, 180 years at this point. How has repeated flooding events impacted this house? What is just constant rising damp and salt in the air doing to the house?
We see a lot of evidence around the room of salts that are coming out of the brickwork from the repeated inundation of salt water on the property.
We constantly have problems with water wicking up into masonry walls on the peninsula.
Bricks act like a sponge with a capillary action, really just soak water straight up. And once the water evaporates, the salt just kind of expands in the brick and actually causes the brick to break apart.
So we've actually taken out some brick that were deteriorated, and we're seeing a little salt mine in the wall. So we know it's there. What do we do about it? Best practices today are trying to do things like putting in poultice type mortars that actually are sacrificial, so that the mortar will sacrifice over time and the bricks will be saved.
When the mortar's too hard, it damages the bricks. So our goal is to create a softer mortar that's essentially sacrificial, that can be repointed in the future as it fails. So it'll be a cyclical sort of maintenance project.
And so we've kind of been doing some test areas of tuck pointing and looking at it to see how it's going to behave. How soft do we want to go with our mortar? Do we want it so soft that it just starts to erode in a year? Or do we want it hard enough it's going to last 2 or 3 or 4 years? It's an aesthetic, and it's a system of trying to protect the building blocks of the building, the brick.
So here we're looking at 2 different samples of replication mixes, one being this one that was installed before this one. As you can see, it didn't work out. This is probably 8 months and it's already beginning to fail. This was installed a couple months ago, so we're looking at different pigments, trying to match the color of what you see above. This one's obviously too light. This one's a little bit closer to what we're thinking about, but it takes time. You install the samples and you have to let them sit, you have to let them cure, just to see how they're going to perform with the salts that are embedded in the brick. You have the moisture coming up in and out of the brick and mortar, and adjacent to that you have metal building components, basically brackets and earthquake rods and other components that are not treated. As we're opening up the building envelope to investigate this, we're finding that they're all essentially dust.
As you can see, steel does not last that long anywhere with salt water and air.
So those materials are basically all going to need to be replaced.
It's going to take time to do it.
We're fighting a lot of different battles. It's a lot of different ethics in preservation, a lot of different philosophies and theories of preservation we're trying to deal with and trying to come up with best practices.
We're undertaking this project in a way that we're documenting all the work that we do so that it will be a resource for others in the future.